Kia ora, good evening. A century ago today, New Zealand joined Great Britain in declaring war on the German Empire. The occasion was marked this morning on the Wellington foreshore.
This morning at 9:20, 10 of the New Zealand Army's standard artillery pieces, 105mm howitzers, fired off 100 rounds to commemorate New Zealand's affirmation of commitment to go toward England's side 100 years ago. The 100-gun salute is the first of its kind since the coronation of King George V in 1911. As soon as the 15th of August 1914, New Zealand dispatched 1,400 men by steamer to occupy what was then German Samoa, an imperial assignment that was free of bloodshed. Over 100,000 personnel served overseas between 1914 and 18, of which 18,000 were killed and 41,000 were wounded.
The region's rivers are dropping following a wet weekend, with 50mm falling in some parts of Southland on Saturday.
The majority of rain fell on the region on Saturday night. Rainfall totals were highest in western areas. Fearlight had 51.5mm, Scott's Gap had 50mm and Invercargill recorded 39mm. Environment Southland senior hydrologist Chris Jenkins says a flood alert status was activated at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. He says that most rivers typically reach these levels a couple of times a year. The flood alert status was lifted after the Mataora River at Seaward Downs peaked at 2.02 metres above normal this morning at 4:30 a.m. Soil conditions throughout the region are still saturated. Further rainfall could cause rivers to respond quickly. Rain predicted for tomorrow, however, is said to be unlikely at this stage to have a major impact.
The trial of a world-first crossing system for Invercargill that helps slower pedestrians, improve safety and traffic flows was launched in the city today. The crossing on the corner of Queen's Drive and St Andrews Street was put through its paces by school groups, councillors and general public alike. The difference with this crossing is it has two crossing times, the standard time for slower pedestrians and a faster crossing option that reduces vehicle delays. Signs, an audio message and braille stickers assist people with disabilities who can select the slower time by pressing a button for 3 seconds. The system, designed by Invercargill Senior Traffic Engineer Eddie Cook, was well received.
Well, it's quite good. The only downside, I think, is probably the audio message on it is a little bit distorted, and I think it's going to have to be modified so people can hear it clearly. And there's a little message in braille down the bottom which I found difficult to bend down to read. But apart from that, everything else is good. It's got a strong vibration on the arrow where you deaf-blind people can put their hand in it. It's really great. So if that's what's going to happen, you know, as long as that's maintenance is kept up on that side of the, that'll be very good.
What are your thoughts about this ingenuity being created here in Invercargill? Do you think it could go worldwide?
Oh, I think it'd go. I hope it does. You know, I think it will. Because seeing all those school children go over in one job lot, it was quite good because they had the longer period of time to get across what that they need.
As we reported earlier in the bulletin, World War I was declared 100 years ago today. The Southland Museum and Art Gallery are planning ongoing special exhibitions showing Southland at war for the duration of the centenary of the conflict. Southland Museum History Curator David Dudfield says the first stage of the exhibition covers the Southland story from the declaration of war until the Gallipoli landings.
We've got quite a wide variety of programs coming up at the museum. At the moment we're working on World War I Southland Story. That's a series of exhibitions starting with this exhibition, which is from enlistment to Gallipoli. It's looking at the first opening months of the war as told through how Southlanders would have seen it, through the newspapers, through the Southland Times, through the Southland Daily News, and how the recruitment posters of the time it gives you a feel for how people viewed the world at that stage.
How media was impacting on decisions and things.
Yeah, it's right. If you look at some of these posters, it's just pure propaganda. A lot of it, it's you know, king and country, guilt trips. You know, why haven't you joined up? It's It's a really fascinating sort of insight into the way that we were only 100 years ago, just a few generations ago.
So as the war progresses, of course, the centenary of the war progresses, the Museum and Art Gallery will be adding to this exhibition.
That's right. This first exhibition is sort of more of a placeholder while we build the main Gallipoli experience behind the walls over the next few months. So the Gallipoli experience will open on 25th of April next year, and that will run through till probably till the end of the centenary of the war, but we'll be including other things like the Western Front, the armistice, Spanish influenza at the end of the war as well. So it'll be an evolving series of exhibitions over the next wee while.
And of course there is, in conjunction with Kew, a Southland Museum and Art Gallery TV component as well.
Yeah, we just filmed that not so long ago with Dr. Aaron Fox, Mike Fellow from the Southland Times and Lynn Lee Deer. And they're talking about the outbreak of war through to the Gallipoli campaign, and it's quite an insightful sort of a perspective on how people viewed it.
That's very much in keeping with what we're seeing here at this exhibition.
Yeah, that's right. It follows the same sort of themes, just expanding on a few of the stories, a few of the anecdotes from the Southland Times, from the soldiers' perspectives, and from the community's perspectives as well.
The campaign to encourage young Southlanders to vote took a musical turn in the city on Friday night. The Rock Enroll concert offered free entry to young voters if they enrolled to vote in the forthcoming general election. 6 local bands entertained while candidates for the Invercargill seat took the opportunity to talk about issues important to young voters. Meanwhile, the Electoral Commission is targeting the over 43,000 voters who had their enrolment confirmation papers returned to sender after having moved address without updating their details. Enrolment can be checked at any post shop by phoning 0800 36 76 56 or visiting any public library within their electorate. Do stay with us. Coming up after the break, feathered friends flock together in Gore. Welcome back. The grandest, smallest, most colourful, exotic and chirpiest birds gathered for some friendly feathered competition at Gore's Town and Country Club on Saturday and Sunday. The club rang with birdsong as beaked beauties preened their feathers in a bid to attain top spot. The 82nd Grand National Bird Show got underway at Gore at the weekend, with the Southland Bird Club hosting the show on behalf of the New Zealand Federation of Caged Birds. Entry numbers were down compared to a decade ago when the last national show was held in Invercargill, but the quality of birds was evident.
There's 14 sections here at this show, and we go from these large hook-beaked birds right down to very, very small finches. The main thing is, in most cases, is the condition of the birds, the feather quality. A lot of the birds are judged on their markings. In the red factors, where we've got the red birds, that's colour comes into it. So there's a lot of different factors in the various sections.
Exhibitors each provide their own show cage that adheres to rigorous standards of showcase and vary depending on what types of birds are being shown.
There is a strict code of rules. As you'll see, most of the cages are black, and the inside of nearly all the cages is aqua. In the case of the budgies, it's black and white inside.
The event's an opportunity for public to buy birds as well, but they're not sold unless they're up to a certain standard.
We ended up with just on 1,200, and which we were absolutely delighted about. Plus we had probably 200 to 300 sailbirds on the bench as well. So, and the sailbird side of it is just about cleaned out. You know, people come in and buy all types, budgies, canaries, whatever they may be looking for.
There's a fair bit of planning goes into creating a show bird. After pairing up parent birds and a fortnight's wait for eggs to hatch, feed becomes very important.
Some people feed other supplements and like vegetables and greens and that kind of thing as well. But it's the condition of your birds in most cases that come through, because the bird's got to be healthy, and you can, when you're judging, you can soon see a bird that is not in good condition.
Canary and budgie breeders provide most of the birds, and there's always a fair bit of banter between the two camps, but there were also rarer birds on show that come in all shapes and sizes.
Well, we go from seeing behind me a large hookbeak probably a king parrot or something like that, to a little fellow that's just round the corner. It's called a jackarini, and he's about the size of a matchbox.
Organisers are well prepared in the event of any great escapes.
It's interesting because you've got exposed steel beams up here, and usually over a period of time the bird will wear itself out, and you've got nets here, like big fishing nets that you can take round and catch the bird. Yeah.
The bird club movement is unfortunately not growing in the south, and there's no influx of feathered followers.
Yes, it's dropping away, and it's one of those things that, like a lot of, whether it be cat shows, dog shows or whatever it may be, they're having the same problem as we're having. We would love new entrants to come in. It doesn't have to be, a lot of people seem to think that we've got to just concentrate on young people. I had birds when I was a teenager, then I probably went to the spell, I suppose, of nearly 40 years, and then went back into them, and it's the semi-retirement hobby.
Despite the lack of growth in southern bird clubs, raising and showing birds remains a rewarding hobby for lovers of feathered friends. Margot Sutherland, South Today News.
This week is World Breastfeeding Week, and women and children around the globe are celebrating the breast is best philosophy. The Awareness Week is marked by the Big Latch On, which takes place nationally, where women and children join together to breastfeed simultaneously. This year, Plunket is also running a Facebook chat to give parents an online forum to ask questions and get advice about breastfeeding. Plunket says breast milk is the perfect food for infants and provides babies with all the nutrition they need for healthy growth and development. It's the original fast food, always fresh and delivered at the right temperature, plus it's free and readily available. The Blind Foundation in Invercargill proved the perfect venue for an appreciative audience to have their audio senses indulged. Us Community Choir came together to perform a concert for around 130 friends and family. The up to 50 strong choir of men and women sing from classics to modern, changing their repertoire to suit the audience. And last year, the choir had 17 performances around the province. And that is all from the news desk. Next on Sport, a wrap from our Commonwealth Games correspondent Joseph Romanos. From the news team, good night.